Why? Why? Tell them that it's human nature. Why? Why does he do it like this?
What do you call it? Bro, I just said it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's how I look like.
Yes, at the point that you have no codes.
Man, fuck you guys. Like, genuinely.
The ones that now wear bandana and the.
Can you get out of here and close the door?
Wash
It's now you want to wash your hands. Hello, guys. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Once again, I am shirtless with my nipples out, and I have a clay mask on. This is business as usual at this point. You guys should know what to expect, and it's to expect nothing from me. But hey, welcome back, guys. It's been an amazing day. So far so good. Everything has been going great. I hope everything's going great with you guys, and I hope you guys are happy wherever you guys might be. Today we're just gonna genuinely we're gonna stick on a topic that we touched on in the last video. So if you haven't watched the last video, please take a look at it. It's a fun video, it's nice, it's not anything super crazy, and it's a pretty short video. It's 12 minutes. Um and you can just put it on in your background and you should be good to go. But hey, this is a video to just kind of highlight like the changes that are going to be happening, not necessarily with me, but with like the social media space. I hope a lot of you kind of realize, like, in every different technological era, or like at least advancements in like social media, there is always specific roles that gets highlighted as a job. The OG one was always going to be YouTuber. There's a reason why it has stayed around for this long. And it could also just be because at a time when a lot of people weren't making money from social media, YouTube was one of like the first platforms that allowed for like that financial gain to come to its creators. One of the major reasons why Vine, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys watching this are like my age, so you guys remember Vine. I think now they're even trying to do like a revival. Not too sure how that is gonna work because we've kind of like moved away from that era. If they still stick to like the 9 seconds video kind of thing, I think their name is Revine or something. I can't remember for the life of me. And genuinely, I don't care enough to remember. And that is simply not even because of, it's not because I don't have like nostalgic feelings about the app. It's just that we've moved past that point in time. Vine was basically the modern day TikTok, or the past TikTok. You understand what I'm trying to say? Vine was a way for people to accumulate views and to garner attention for their platforms in a way where they're sharing videos, they're building a fan base. But the thing that really messed up Vine's money was apparently, or allegedly, they weren't paying creators on that specific platform. And which is kind of crazy because when you realize the amount of traffic, like the top echelon of like creators were bringing in for Vine, it's kind of crazy, or it's kind of understandable why a lot of people left the platform. People like King Batch, Lily Pons, Anna Stocking, so many of these people kind of like transferred over to either Instagram Reels, or even before Instagram Reels was like a thing, or eventually they went on to basically create TikTok accounts. Case like, or yeah, pretty much that's just how things were. And because of that, Vine ultimately had to shut its doors in, I believe, 2016, if I'm not mistaken, 2016, 2017. I can't remember. It's been so long. And it was kind of crazy because the app itself, it wasn't really around for a long time. I think maybe it was only around for like a year and a half to like 3 years, and that was it. But that app itself, for a time on the internet, you couldn't escape Vines. Anywhere you went to, whether it was YouTube, Whether it's the same way with clips from like streams and things like that. Vine was the thing. And if you were popular on Vine, you automatically had kind of like a shoe in to become like a popular creator, which is what happened with a lot of those top creators. I'm not saying all of them, but when a lot of them kind of like came together, they started either doing contents together, or it was this kind of situation where they just started getting brand deals and moving to Instagram. That is just when they started making their money. Then after that time, during peak, and I mean peak 2020, that was during COVID, TikToker was the thing that kind of like garnered a lot of attention. Of course, there were still streamers, but TikToker was like the major thing. That's when you see all of the people called like the Addison Rays, the Noah Becks, the Charlie D'Amelios, the Cabby Lames. It was during that 2019 or maybe 2018, but 2019 I would say is like the better part. 2020 to 2021, that was when it was on its all-time high. You could not escape the TikToker craze because it was everywhere. That is when people started seeing people doing, the renegade, just flexing, yeah, I'm just flexing. But anyways, that was the time when you started seeing a lot of people get more comfortable with creating. And because of the widespread success, with like the top, I think 5% or top 10% of creators. No, actually less than that. Top 1% of creators. It eventually became kind of like a pathway to make money. But it still wasn't something that could actually be considered a career. Simply because the same issue, but to a lesser scale, that Vine had, TikTok also had. During the peak times of TikTok, nobody had this access to like TikTok Live where you can just say, "Ooh, ice cream so good. Ooh, give me that hot dog." Gluck, 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 or whatever the fuck you were doing. It was this kind of thing where you had to post your videos. And I think at that time it was just like 30 seconds or 15 seconds. Similar formats to Vine, but maybe a higher amount of like seconds available to them. But it was this kind of thing where even the top creators, I think there was an interview a couple of years back when Charlie D'Amelio was talking about how she had like 1 billion views on TikTok, but she only made around $70,000 from that. Do you understand how crazy that is? You bring literally the population of China. If everybody in China watched Charlie D'Amelio, do you know how much traffic that's literally like that's more than 10% of the world. That's like 15 to 17% of the world's population. That was how much views she had. And that was how much exposure she had. And they already paid her $70,000, which is wild. But the only thing about it that was really good was because TikTok, because of that exposure, it over time helps people to be exposed. That's why you start seeing brands. They either they were doing challenges and things like that, or that's when the first wave of all of these brands commenting underneath creators' pages started to blossom. Nowadays, the thing is kind of like a regular thing. You can go into a random person's page if they're really popular or if like they have a viral video. At least two brands are in there talking about, oh wow, haha, trying to be like in on the joke. But back then it was a big thing because nobody had seen this before. So that's just one of the major reasons why, even though these people were incredibly popular, they were everywhere. People were either writing articles about them, people were either getting interviewed. They were never really making money. Then streamers became a big thing. Just because Kai Cenat is the most popular person, that does not mean he was the one who started originally streaming. Well, that does not mean he was the most popular person. But I can still remember the person who actually made streaming seem like something that was fresh and new. And that was Aiden Ross. Aiden Ross was actually the person who kind of showed people this kind of like view of like, hey, being a streamer is kind of cool. Because that was when he started bringing on all these kinds of different celebrities. Originally, I think he started bringing on people like Wiz Khalifa, then the notorious Tory Lanez video where he did like a freestyle. That was one of like the craziest things ever. Even to today, I still think a lot of people still reference like that freestyle as one of like the best freestyles ever. But a lot of people still attribute it to like, hey, do you remember that freestyle that Tory Lanez did on AD Ross's stream back in the day? It's like, oh wow, yeah, it's still crazy, and things like that. But because he was the most popular individual at that time who was streaming, even though there were a lot more people streaming, you had people like Valkyrie, you had people like Pokimane, you had people like Asmongold, Hassan, But Aiden Ross was the person who actually, I would say, brought that thing mainstream. Then in 2022, 2023, they became like a massive resurgence. Or I wouldn't say resurgence, but there was a boost in streaming. So people like IShowSpeed, people like Kai Sinat eventually came into the space around 2024, and the rest is history. The reason why I say all of these things isn't necessarily just like, oh, to give you guys a rundown of like the history of, oh my god, back in the day, YouTubers were the main thing, guys. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to open up everybody's eyes to the understanding, like, hey, this is what is going to be happening soon. Or even this is what is happening right now. But the truth is this, yeah, there is still space for more. There is still space for more. The reason why I say this is when you compare the amount of people on other platforms that like, for example, things like TikTok, we've already established that there's above a certain amount of people. For example, let's say there's above 150 million people actively on TikTok, and there is more on YouTube, because we have people like Mr. Beast, who has, I think, over 100 million like subscribers. Over 100 million subscribers. Then you have Instagram, duh. I think you have cases where I think some like Cristiano Ronaldo is like 512 million like followers, if I'm not mistaken. But that just paints a view of how big this thing is. Twitch really only has around, I would say, as what Ludwig said during Streamer University, around like 6.5 million people streaming at a time. That's nothing compared to the amount of people who are actively on other apps creating content. It really is. That's like bare minimum. Imagine if YouTube back in the day only had around like 6 point something million people that were creating content. It was still the parts for people will be billionaires by now. A lot more people will be billionaires right by now, because that pool of attention grabbing will be very small. But you have to realize, like, yo, streaming now is the next big thing. And a lot of people are already kind of like catching on that, yo, this is the next big thing. But it also comes with its cons. Just like anything, there's cons. Streaming basically bridges the gap between regular people, and I use that very loosely because everybody is regular, and the popular people, like the stars. It bridges that gap. And because it bridges that gap, a lot of people have this parasocial tendency to be devolved into, oh my god, Yamate Kurasai. Daddy loves me. Meanwhile, this nigga don't know who the fuck you are. Like, do you understand? A lot of people are like that. But that's for any other what do you call this thing? Any other social media platform. But things like Twitch, Kick, Rumble, these specific platforms have is 24/7 live streaming. It's 24/7 live streaming. If you can continuously stream, you will stream. I think there's one girl who apparently she's been live for 3 years now, 3 years straight, or something like that. There are some people like that. So that privacy is no longer there. People can actively know where you are when you're just out there chilling. That's why you have things like stream snipers, because they come. Let us say somebody has been to like an event place before, and y'all are trying to keep it secret. You come over there, boom, pow, like, yo, how did you find us here? And things just kind of devolve from there. But the main thing I'm just trying to say is like, yo, we're getting to a point where your privacy is content. If you're willing to risk your privacy for content, and what you're doing is impressive, because some people, they're boring and they're buns, but because they're out here trying to expose anything, people are like, oh, why am I not getting popular? If you're somebody who's interesting and you're willing to risk your privacy for it, you can make a lot. People like Kai Cenat, I should be basically the king of IRL streaming. He's everywhere. People can go to the places where he's at, and they can meet up with him, and there's not this barrier of like, oh, because a lot of these A-list celebrities, like people who are actors, who are like A-list actors, people who are like Kim Kardashian and things like that, there's this level of mysticism where you don't really know who this person is. And because you don't know who this person is, you don't really know how to interact with this person. And because of that lack of interaction, that mystique still goes through. But these people are just regular people that you have access to. Streamers, I mean. The regular people who you have access to, if you can get there. I mean, don't go into people's houses. Don't be like that nigga who says, like, if you're outside a convenience store in New York right now, put your hand in the register. Their money is money as of right now. They will send you to prison. Or if you're unlucky enough, they will shoot you. Just saying. But it just kind of opens your mind to like, yo, this is an avenue that a lot of people might lose sight of. As for me, I don't want to lose sight of this. That is also the reason why I'm just gonna try in the next couple of days, do a little bit of research to see how this thing works. Because of course you cannot just go in. The only setup I have is my phone. That's it. It's only my phone. All of these videos, I have no script for it. I don't have time to make a script. Well, that's a lie. I do have time to make a script, but I'm not going to do that because that's boring. So that is why it's such a fun concept. I mean, anybody can do it right now. Anybody can do it. As long as you're willing to bite that bullet, you never know what might happen. So all I'm gonna say to that, guys, is give me a little bit of time. Just as this YouTube video, I've been like pushing out a little bit more consistently. So far in the span of like a week, I posted 3 videos. Unfortunately, I might need to bump that up a lot more. Not unfortunately, but I work a lot of times, and a lot of times when I'm working, I spend 8 hours there. In total, to and fro, the entire amount of time that I'm gonna be at work is, let's just say, around 9 hours and 50 minutes. I'm gonna be out there. Maybe a little bit more, depending on what I'm doing. Because let's say the train is slow, or let's say something's happened, I might be busy. So most of my day is gone, or at least most of the day that I will need to do things are is gone. And I have to sleep for like let's say 6 to 8 hours, which I don't, to be quite honest. But the truth is, now it's just thinking about consistency. As long as I'm consistent, I should be able to build up this fan base. You never know what might happen from there. So, once again, thank you guys so much for watching the videos. I genuinely didn't expect it when I saw a couple of people actually went out of their way to watch the last two videos I posted. Thank you guys so much. It means so much to me that people are actively just watching. You know, this entire time I genuinely just expected like, yo, the only people who watch videos of me is like my family, then they'll diss me about it. But you guys have been really nice. Thank you guys so much. Stay tuned. Great things are coming. Bye.